Lord Games. Join the fray.
Hello, everybody. I'm getting a string of Skypes over here, so I'm partially interrupted. But we're here for GM's Tricks of the Trade. Well, that's not good. All right. Streaming now. All right, so there we go. Hopefully that stops the Skypes. How's it going, everybody? Caught the tail end of Tim's show there. He is too kind with the storytelling compliments. I'm really just a bullshit artist. So, so there you go. How is everybody doing today? Biggie Pa, Fajita, Dr. Grape Ape Knight, Johnny, everybody. All right, good deal. Let me see. We're going to do a little GMing stuff now. Can hear you typing. Well, that's good, I suppose, Chuck. Everything seems to be working. I get a weird message. Boy, I tell you what, Bifford, I was waiting. I was waiting for Tim's stream to finish, and I kind of queued out, and I was listening to some murder thing, and I fell asleep hard. I'm sitting in this chair, just I was out like a light. I need something. I think a little more. It's a little more Arnold Schwarzenegger or something in my life. Wake my dumb ass up. Is my hair a mess? Yeah, there you go. There you go. All right. How's it going, Sparky Odd Man? I have my first meeting Saturday before CNC campaign and starts next weekend. Very cool. Yeah, I'm fixing to get one in about 32 seconds, Bifford. I don't even know what I did today. I know it was something. We're still struggling. We're still struggling with that damn new software for the mailroom, and it's about to put me and Tim both on an early grave. And oh, there was some other stuff I can't even remember. Today was a long time ago. I already opened my. Well, here's to you, Sparky. Yeah, I may have to start doing the siesta. Isn't it common south of the border to take a siesta at like 2 o'clock? Maybe it's time I dove into the siesta, the whole siesta mentality. They say if you get more sleep, and I'll say this, I've had, like in the last 7 days, and I don't know why, there's nothing particular going on other than the mess in Ukraine, but I had the craziest dreams, nightmares, not just I can't even tell you what any of them about. Something about decapitation at one point, but just these horrible nightmares that kept waking me up. And that lasted until, not last night and the night before, but so like 5 or 6 days. And it's not so much that it terrified me, but it just kept waking me up. I kept waking up trying to get out of these stupid dreams that I was stuck in. And then I couldn't go back to sleep for a while. I'd go back to sleep and start the whole thing over again. So I don't know what horrible nightmares mean in the whole psychological dreamscape world or psychiatrist or whatever, but it was pretty wicked. Pretty wicked. Because I remember once getting up thinking, I just want this dream to be over with. This is horrible. This isn't fun at all. If you're going to go out on your own terms. That's right. The machine pen is in, and the cutter is working just fine. I absolutely love that hydraulic cutter. It's broken maybe 3 times, and you just fix it. Really, it may even take a little bit. It's very understandable. There's a hole, and you take a screwdriver and a hammer, and you knock out the old pin, and you take a screwdriver and a hammer, and you knock in the new pin, and it works again. There's no rebooting and passwords and log-ons and whatever the hell else our technological world has to do with. So it's just kind of nice. It's kind of relaxing. You make war games. I literally just had a 1.5 hour nap before the stream. Dreams mean that you think they do. It's a complex issue involving mirrors and lasers. Doggy stream. Yeah, I don't know. Ironice, you make war games? Yeah. Maybe that's, I don't know. Maybe we need to do some My Little Pony war games or something. That's probably got a copyright on it and get me in a bunch of legal trouble. And there I'd be. And there you'd have it. What am I going to do? Maybe My Little Goats or something. Probably still too close to some legalese to get you in trouble. But we are here for GM's Tricks of the Trade, episode number 105 or something like that. I don't know. That's what I put on the document, and Tim puts up on the stream. So I think that's what we're just going to stick with. My Little Pony: Friendship is Lethal. Yeah, there you go. I don't think I ever saw an episode of My Little Pony. My kids never got into it. So I don't know that I ever watched it. I really don't even know what it's about. I assume ponies are in there at some level. My Little Babunsky. Now that I love. So we're gonna have to be careful picking on Chuck. He's here today, so Chuck might actually defend himself. If of course if we start picking on Chuck, he might schedule a meeting. So maybe we don't want to do that. Maybe we want to be nice to Chuck today. So, my little brony. All right, we're going down a road none of us want to end up at the end of. So let's do a U-turn and get off of the My Little Pony road. We are here for Jim's Tricks of the Trade, and it's very interesting. I'm sure it has something to do with algorithms and whatever, but I'm on Facebook a little bit, I'm on Twitter a little bit, I'm on TikTok a little bit. But I noticed on Twitter there was a few comments about, somehow I think these are all just one giant hydra. It's just different heads for the same body because they all seem to communicate. I answered someone on Twitter. She asked about, this is my first time DMing. I'm a little nervous. Do you have any advice? So I posted my typical advice to new DMs, and then it popped up on TikTok, and then it popped up on TikTok again, and I thought, what's going on here? So I think that I've somehow, I don't know. I think they're all connected. I think, what is that theory that Davis sent me a couple of years ago, that trees all communicate with each other? They're through the roots or the ground, and some kind of biochemical thing that if you cut one tree down, the other tree, I don't know. It seemed a bit of a stretch to me, but I'm not a biochemist, so I can't speak with any degree of certainty on that stuff. And I play role-playing games, and there's druids in them, so I don't know, maybe they do communicate. Who am I? But I'm relatively certain that all of our software communicates. So if you do or say something, then the whole damn social media thing is somehow the movie Avatar. I don't know where it's something. Davis is always finding the strangest shit and sending it to me, and it could be true. I don't know. What do I know? I'm reading a history on the Habsburgs right now, so what do I know? What does the skill tree look like for My Little Pony RPG? I'm not even going into that. That's the best piece of... not going there either, so I'm just smoking at the time of that thought, probably. They do. See, Vic Dangers read the article. The movie Avatar, I'm not a big fan of that movie. I'm pretty sure See, Avatar, and who's that? James Cameron? Avatar's a good movie. I don't want to knock the movie. But it was just an Edgar Rice Burroughs, Barsoom, thematically knockoff. He just took all of the monsters from... He should have made John Carter of Mars, is what he should have done. I'm pretty sure River Horse Games does that RPG. Alicio Cavarto is my favorite miniature. I'm sure I butchered that name, so I try to keep track of him. I take a phone call, look away for a few minutes, look back, and you're all being weird. Brainstorming little owls. Yeah. I still want a Davis's mailing list. Everybody, no one wants a Davis's mailing list. I got to get him on these streams. I'm going to talk to him today. We were in a conversation just a little while ago. I'm gonna get with Davis. We're gonna get him back on the stream. Chuck and I are gonna make that happen. Davis needs to be back out here. He actually absolutely loves it. He loves getting into the stream and jibber jabbering, and he always has enjoyed interacting with everybody from any walk of life, from anywhere, any country, any language. He doesn't care. Davis has always enjoyed talking to people. He's just anywhere you go, Davis, he'll strike up a conversation with anyone, which is probably a very Arkansan thing to do. But you have to plan around. Yeah, Davis' time is the problem because he's sometimes there and he's sometimes not. it's actually finding Davis. And when I Skype him, it's not me Skyping him. He Skypes me out of the blue, and there we are chit chatting. And then if he'll schedule, he'll say, "I'll be there at 4:00." Sometimes he'll be there at 4 o'clock. Sometimes he completely forget about it. And he only weirdly, and I think it's because his girlfriend is on Facebook. He only communicates consistently via Facebook. So at least with me, I don't know about anyone else. I can text him and he never responds. But there you go. All right, but people aren't here to listen about inter-troll communications. Nobody really wants to know that. Avatar equals Pocahontas. Yeah, what was the other one? It was a lot like Dances with Wolves. It was a well-constructed movie. I just thought it borrowed too much in it. Anyways. We are here to talk about GM Tricks the Trade. And I mentioned earlier that I'm getting a lot of, my algorithm has kind of changed, and I'm getting a lot of, I'm a new DM, what should I do thing. And I always give the same piece of advice every time to a brand new DM. Keep your first adventures short and simple. Don't do any huge complicated themes. Don't do any kind of quests or the ring to Mount Doom or whatever the hell it is you're doing. Don't worry about kings and monarchs and political structures or world building or any of that stuff. Put all that stuff in the back burner and just let it simmer for a little bit while you just run something simple and small. First time behind the screens, do a little bitty adventure that's going to run a couple of hours. And then do that, whether you're playing Castles and Crusades, Dungeons and Dragons, whatever, doesn't matter. Do that 4, 5, 6 games, whatever, until you kind of get your sea legs and you feel more comfortable with the system that you're running and you feel more comfortable with the people that you're playing with and how to run a combat and doing a little NPC action and all that other crap. And rounding up the little ponies that may be galloping around or whatever it is, or chasing the avatars off the screen. And then once you've got your sea legs, start doing your world building, start doing your larger campaign arcs and building thematic elements into it and political elements and whatever it is you're doing. Start small. Start simple, and it's going to go much, much better. It's going to go much easier on you because you don't have to worry about Adventure X ties to Adventure Y and what's going to happen with Z because they don't have anything to do with each other. It's really just an intro section. I actually apply this same thing when I start new games. I try to never start with any kind of thematic element at all. I'll have some vague idea of some encounters I want to do, and then I go. Just keep it very, very simple. So what's lacking in this advice that I frequently drop on people is actually what constitutes a small adventure. What's an example of a small adventure? So I put 5 ideas together. I'm actually going to try to get Davis in here. He may still be on Skype. I know he's reading the news a few minutes ago. If he can find the challenge will be whether he can find Twitch. He won't go. So for those of you who don't know Davis he co-founded Trollord Games and he co-created Castles and Crusades. He's one of our primary writers right now. He's my brother, my older brother. He got me into all this crap. But he will not use the Trollord Games website to find Trollord Games resources. It's very strange. It's very odd. I don't know why. Coming on 1 year DMing, my first adventure was to keep it simple, stupid dungeon crawl. Yes, that's one of the ones I talk about in these 5 examples. Keeping it very, very. Finding David Sean out there, that movie. There you go. Two companies have the IP at the same time for a game. Wonder how often that happens. I'm not sure what you're talking about, Blood and Wild. Now it's Castles and Cucumbers. There you go. Dancing with Wolves, Tangos with Tacos. It's damn alliteration. I would recommend finding a starter published adventure for your RPG of choice. Most are designed in mind for starting GMs as well as starting players to all learn the system. That's very, very helpful using any kind of starter adventure like that. The only issue I have with starter adventures, and it's a very small one, but it was reminded to me in one of the TikToks I answered last night about a young lady starting up, and she said, I want your advice, but I don't want to read anything. So, that sounds so much like me because I don't want to read anything. Just tell me how to rebuild the engine. Just don't make me read a book on it. That's sort of my approach to life there. But so that's the thing with the starter adventure, the starter packs, or any of those things. You're gonna have to sit down and read. You're gonna have to sit down and kind of study what's going on and understand what this writer wanted you to do or this designer thinks you should do or whatever the hell. So there is a little bit of fallback on that. Here's the only world-building tip you need. Read and steal anything written by Monty Cook. There you go. So anyway, I concocted 5 of my favorite little starter adventures that take almost no prep, a little bit of NPC, a little bit of thought, and then you can go and learn the game as you play. B2 Keep on the Borderlands has been in a few of my worlds. That's a pretty good one. I have always found that Village of Hamlet is the best for the published starter adventures. Troller Games has put out a few. Line of the Ropes is kind of okay, but it's kind of complicated. Vakund is pretty simple. Assault on Blacktooth Ridge is big. It's not really a starter thing, but if you're trying to learn a system and you're trying to learn how to play the game and how to interact with player characters, or with the players, not really the player characters, well, the PCs too, but to interact with players, and then how just the whole thing works, just the whole, how this tabletop role-playing game hobby works, because it is very different than any other game you're ever going to play, except maybe Pictionary, maybe. Those are kind of interactive games where you kind of got to know your audience, but you're not really telling a story or anything. So I don't even think that applies. So 5 simple adventures that you can roll out, and you can roll out very quickly without much prep or thought, is what we're fixing to roll into. Now, I gave 3 caveats, and I want to kind of go over these caveats real quick. The first one was always use weather in your adventures, whether it's rain, heat, snow, ice, sleet, whatever it is, have some kind of weather. That always helps a little bit. Second caveat was, of these 5, these adventures run about 2 hours, maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours, 2.5 hours, depending on how much role-playing you do, how much description you do, how complicated the game is for you to overcome. But you can merge these concepts together. These concepts easily merge together, so you can do that. And the third note is, this is just kind of the skinny of what the adventure is. You're going to have to flesh out NPC names and where you want it to take place and why the characters are walking from point A to point B. All right, nearly forgot you were on. How's it going, Green Lantern? Treasure Hunt's always a good one. Nice starter adventures, give the players too many choices. Some starter adventures. Yeah, and that's the thing, Vic Danger. That's one of the things that these little adventures, it just takes choice out. There's no choice. You're not railroading them. They're just doing simple tasks, and there's no thematic element. There's none. Maybe a little bit, and you can flesh that out as much as you want. You can have none or a lot, however you feel comfortable doing it. If only the Matrix was real. I know Dungeon Fu. I have not seen the latest Matrix movie. I need to go see that. I'd like to do Hamlet someday in CNC. If I can wrangle together some extra people for my stream, it'd be amazing. Yeah, Hamlet, the reason I say Hamlet is because there's no real adventure in Hamlet. There's the Moat House to explore, and that's about it. But there is, 33 families and people in Hamlet that give you an almost limitless supply of sub-adventures that you can go on and stuff that you can build yourself. So, and this isn't T2, 3, and 4. This is the T1 put out by Wizards of the Coast, or TSR back in the long ago days. And it's just, there's so much cannon fodder for the DM. And it's a good one because you can go and do a little role-playing, do the Moat House. There's your small adventure. And then you can go from there, whatever the hell it is that you want to do. Treasure Hunt starts players at 0. Always start with something simple. Farmer Joe needs help. Someone is stealing from the field. Go from there. Farm to village, Thorpe to county. Yep, that's exactly right, Damn Widow. That's exactly the way to do it. When you're just learning this hobby, is you start small and then build it, and it will build. Once you've run a few games, it's going to start building up really fast. Be a man, run I6 Ravenloft out the gate. Yeah, there you go. If you're a new GM, certainly run Ravenloft. That's what you want to do. When using weather or other such things, make sure to decide what is going on with how it affects all the players' senses, not just the site. Yeah, absolutely. Weather is the best. Weather and NPCs is the best. Weather and NPCs and equipment is the best. Tome of Horrors is an excellent starter. Players will go anywhere but there. Yeah, they'll die pretty quick, too. I've never made it through Tome of Horror. Start small, and old wizard comes to the Hobbit town to light some fireworks. And the avalanche begins. Tomb of Horrors is not a good choice. That's great. Tomb of Horrors. Literally never survived that. I've played it like 4 times and I've never survived that stupid adventure. It's also meant for tournaments. A great choice. Encourages party to go anywhere else you want them. Thank goodness to TLG. And guys, like you, Steve, I value my escape from the damn news part of the week. Well, thank you for that. Just another guy named Harry. Yeah, we try not to have touch on anything. The world is out there for all of us to see whenever we go forth, and we don't do that here. We just make games. We just don't make games. It's even a TLG philosophy. We don't put public statements out. We don't do anything. We just make games. Here's our game. Let's play. And thanks for noticing that. How's it going, Enoch? And allow the players to blow off helping farm. Oh, interesting that you point to an old game, and I see that the new games are more a copy of old stuff or reprint the old stuff. Do the new ones? Honestly, do the new ones lack? Lord of mercy, imagination. I honestly don't know. Odd one. I haven't. As a DM, as a CK, and as a GM, I don't really use published too much. I buy them a lot, and I'll take maps and art, NPCs, and concepts, and kind of go with whatever direction, especially maps, whatever direction I want to go with them. It's rare that I'll actually dive into it, so I can't really say. I think that what they are now is they're more adventure paths in that they take this huge arc. And as we know, as those of us who have gamed for a long time, and those of us who are just beginning to game are going to learn or have already learned quickly, there's no end to the number of paths you can take. So to do an arc is cool, but it's not the end game of the game. And at some point, you're going to have to kind of take them out on your own. Sparky does a great deal of rabid owlbear impression. We only get political when we have to. Pepper shortages, exactly. That was Nicolas Cage, not an owlbear. Same difference. Tough to come up with a very new idea. So much is out there. Yeah, really, there's a lot. It's blah, blah, blah. The Mind of Fendelville adventure from 5e Stars is pretty good. My kids had a blast playing it. I say I've not looked at any of that. So that I can't say, and I don't doubt that there's some really good stuff. It's like with anybody, any company, anywhere. Some of it's going to be really good. Some of it's going to be not really good, and a lot of it somewhere in the middle. So the first short, simple adventure that I always throw out, and this is one of my favorite, is the delivery. It's simply a delivery. I did this 2 weeks ago. We started a new game 3 weeks ago, and the one that I had them to actually take them to the village of Hamlet. They've been working with this. They knew this innkeeper named Tess, and they knew that the characters were going north to the village of Hamlet. So Tess gave them a package. Can you deliver this package? I need it to get to this village in Hamlet. Can you take it with me? And there's your adventure. You're done. All you now have to do is you've got the characters have an objective. Assuming that they've taken the task, they have an objective, and they're gonna go from point A to point B. That can be in town. That can be from one town to another town. That can be across a river. It can be whatever you want it to be. That's just the flesh that you're going to put on it, but the adventure is very simple. And en route, you want to do some kind of an encounter. It can be some bandits on the road. It can be someone pursuing them for the package. It can be, though I wouldn't recommend that because that complicates the adventure. Really, the package is the motivating factor to get your players to move their characters from point A to point B. So I would not even have the package involved in whatever you want to do next. And the easiest thing to do at that point is a roadside encounter. These encounters can be as simple as there's some kobolds along the road, and now you got to do this fight with the kobolds. It can be any kind of fight you want, a running fight, whatever, it doesn't matter. Or there's a rainstorm, and you got to take shelter in this abandoned cottage. And now you're in the cottage. You discover that there's a cellar in here, and there's a little adventure. And so what you got here, the delivery is your adventure, and you've got motive. The characters have a reason to go from point A to point B, and now you can do whatever you want on that route, whatever kind of encounter you want, river crossing, fighting a monster, exploring a cellar, whatever small thing you want to do. And then when they've overcome the kobolds, when they've killed the kobolds, they keep going, and then they get to the town to point B. They deliver the package. And you're done. You've got nice role-playing at the end. You've got nice role-playing at the beginning. You've got an encounter of some stripe, whatever you want to do, in the middle. You've got some overland adventure if you've thrown in a little bit of a cellar adventure or whatever, a little dungeon, whatever you've thrown in there. Now you've got a fully fleshed out session that's run between 1.5 and 3 hours. You've learned your first dive into the rules, and more importantly than the rules, you've learned how to interact with your players. That's it. It's just the delivery. Your delivery is the first one. If you have the idea of your world, the players will give you the story ideas. Yes, they'll start building that stuff like crazy. Best module plus bad GM equals poor game and course module. Yeah, that's very true. The DM has a huge amount to do with that, whether the module is good or not. I'm interested in the world of Aird. What is the world like? Where's the best place to start? Package equals MacGuffin, and if they're broke, they're motivated. Yeah, there you go. They don't have anything. Jason Sunday. So the world of Aird, we've got Tim. If you're out there, or Chuck, we've got a number of websites you can check out. World Anvil is the most obvious. We've been just plugging that away, putting all kinds of content up on World Anvil. Those are the lands of Ursel behind me. All of those are being fleshed out and written up with story arcs and adventures and backgrounds and what kind of plant and fauna and flora in each of the terrain sections. So that's going up on World Anvil. There's the Codex of Air that you can purchase on our store, and I'm like 90% certain somewhere up there's a free kind of sampler pack for what the world of Air is. Chuck, if you could find that, put that link up. Just dive. I guess you were already doing that. Yeah, you can just dive into. There's all kinds of stuff out there. But what I did when I created the world of Air is I made it's on the surface, it's a generic fantasy world, so you'll be comfortable there. It's got orcs, it's got everything that you're used to it, but it's got its power comes in the depth of its history and the culture that's built around everything, so that you've got 12,000 years of history to pluck adventures from, arcs from, all kinds of things out of the Codex of Air. It was really designed for game masters to take it and explore it and to build their campaigns off of. It ends. There's there's 12,000 years of history, then 1,000 years of the rule of this dark god, and then he's overthrown, and it's 90 years later. So the world is it's got the vestiges of the ancients there, and then it's got everything's new. So you can kind of mold and change it as you see fit, because once you scoop up the world of Air, it's yours. Are the CNC modules only within the Cradle of the World double maps area? Rest of the world, yes. Except for the Haunted Highlands stuff, that's up on the northern part of the world map. But yeah, everything that we write is in there. Some stuff that we write is not specifically designed for Aird, so it's kind of generic. You can drop it in there, and I'm actually kind of putting up a chart with Tim to make that easier. See if you can find that free link for the download. I know it's on the store somewhere. I know it is. Yes, link to the World Anvil. It really had a bit of everything, lots of avenues to expand and transform it into anything you can imagine. That's Sparky. That's the whole. That was our drive, the whole thing. Since he isn't present, I'll ask for Blue Box John. What area has the most dinosaurs and King Kong? There you go. It's gotta be to the south. So the second short and simple adventure for new GMs is the Escort. This is very, very similar to the package, and I do this frequently. You're just going to take off to the delivery. You're just going to escort a person from one point to another point. It doesn't really even have to be a person. It can be a horse. It can be a dog. It can be whatever. You've got to get this item from here to there. And generally, you want to do a person just because it gives you more role playing. But you should not do a complicated one. It shouldn't be a prince or a princess or a noble of any stripe or anyone of any importance. It should really be a sibling of one of the player characters, a friend of one of the player characters, the Little Red Riding Hood going through the forest. You got to take the Little Red Riding Hood to her grandmother because there's a werewolf in the forest. So could you do that for me, please? That type of thing. It's very, very simple, and it has the exact same elements that the delivery has. Once they leave point A to go to point B, you've got an encounter along the way. Whether it's a battle or, again, another cottage or a little dungeon or whatever it is that you want to do, you've got a ready-made excuse for an adventure. And there's no huge thematic elements here. There's nothing. It's just, hey, I think the last one I did, they had to escort a cart. They had to go north to get a cart and escort it back because it was a beer run to the tavern, and there was bandits on the road, and the tavern keeper didn't want her beer order to get sacked. So that was it. And I actually on that one, and I advised this, unlike the delivery, you don't start at point A and point B. You go to point B and then back to point A. So you go both directions. It's a little bit longer, a little bit more involved, but it's kind of the same thing. Go get Red Riding Hood and bring her here, that type of stuff. But it is Smokey and the Bandit. Yeah, there you go, Smokey and the Bandit. That's that's your adventure. We got to get this beer. So where were they taking the beer? Shit. Were they taking it to Texas? I can't even remember why they were taking the beer. What the hell? They're taking it to Texas, right? Why? There was like a... I can't remember. Man, I gotta go watch Smokey and the Bandit now. It's been way too many years since I watched that movie. All these Star Adventure stories remind me of Star Trek TOS episodes. Deliver the wheat to a colony planet, escort an ambassador to peace talks. Yep, it's just simple stuff. They're just thematic things. And the nice thing is about both this delivery and the escort is on these, you actually can start building a network of NPCs. Because whoever hired them to carry the package or whoever hired them or asked them to do the delivery or to do the escort, these can be NPCs that recur over and over again. And those NPCs, of course, become building blocks for the world that the DM wants to do or the GM wants to do. So, when I say that if you're brand new to the hobby and you're brand new to sitting behind the screens, run these simple adventures, really simple adventures, so that you can build your stuff later. What is that Durham movie? I never did like this. I never did like this philosophy. Build it and they will come. That's just not true, but it is true to say, if you run the simple adventures, your game will build. It will definitely build because you're going to run that adventure. You're going to do that, carry the package, the delivery adventure, and when it's over, that NPC, one or two or more of them are going to kind of start to form, to crystallize in your mind, and then you're going to start building stuff off. Well, that NPC has a tavern. That tavern has a name. That tavern has a reputation. It must be in this part of town. So suddenly your mind's going to just start. You're basically seeding your own mind with all kinds of creative content. But keeping it simple makes it easy to learn the system. And that's at the end of the day, your two objectives is to learn the system and to learn how to interact with other players. That's the biggest thing. They're going to Texarkana. The boys are thirsty in Atlanta, and there's beer in Texarkana. Dry County. There you go. We know dry counties here. Where I know they were picking it up in Texas and taking it. I remember the lyrics without googling. Chorus wasn't allowed. They were smuggling. See, I thought they're doing it illegally. That I could remember. Chorus didn't ship that far east. I think Atlanta. It was Atlanta. One set, simple mission. It should be followed by a sandbox type game to allow the players a chance to get a better feel of what they can do and might expect. The sandbox stuff. So a sandbox game, for those of you who don't know, is where everything's kind of contained. It's like if you got a setting that's got a little bit of everything, and you don't really need to get outside of that to do. And that is good. I would recommend Damn Weirdo that they wait just a little bit. 2, 3, 4 games until you really kind of got you're comfortable interacting with other people at the table. I think one of the pressures because I've been reading there's a lot of new players, a lot of new GMs, and I think that for those of us who have been doing it a long time, have forgotten that back in the 70s and 80s when we started, there wasn't this, there was no examples, right? There was nothing. You couldn't look at any point and say, that's how this is done. All you could do is say, are we playing again next week? And if they showed up, you figured you were doing pretty good, right? And you went from there. But now it's very different. Young GMs have so much. There's so much content for them to look at and that they have to aspire to, which is just not. It's not fair because it's a difficult task to get into. And start to master so that you're having fun and they're having fun. I shouldn't say that. It's not that difficult. It's not as difficult as it is daunting. Let's go with daunting on that. It can be very daunting to do that, to do this. So I think that one of the biggest things is to really learn just the pulse of the hobby because it's so different than any other hobby. Field of Dreams. No, Bull Durham is not Field of Dreams. What is Bill Durham? Is that a baseball? Field of Dreams with Monsters. Why did Bull Durham come up in my mind? Was that Kevin Costner? I can't remember. I don't really watch many sports movies, so I don't. So I'm out of my field there. Simple adventure until Sally Field shows up, and I love Sally Fields. I had such a crush on her back in the 70s. Absolutely love Sally Fields. My girl Friday paycheck got ate by a giant gas pump. I see there's quite a few TLG PDF on drive-through for less than $10. What do you have coming up? It's not $50 to $79 per book. So we've got a slew. If you want PDFs, I got a slew of adventures that are pretty inexpensive. We do the Patreon thing. I think if you pay $5 or $10 a month, you get one short adventure a week. They're like 1 to 2 pages long, and then of course the access to all the stuff that came before. But what's more, really, and this is I'm always forgetting to talk about this, and I should talk about this more often. And this is why Tim is always yelling at me. On World Anvil, if you subscribe to the Patreon for $15 a month, you get access to all the adventures that we've published. So you would go to the World Anvil site, and so Line in the Ropes is wherever the hell Line in the Ropes is, and you go and you can download the entire module and play it. So best bang for your buck, the World Anvil by a stretch. Now, you're not going to have the printed copy, but you have access to so much content on World Anvil. It is mind-numbing. Well, Field of Dreams did have ghosts. I hope that answered your question, and just not the other guy named Harry. Big Enos wants to drink Coors at a truck show, but in 1977 it was illegal to sell Coors east of the Mississippi River without a permit. Truck driver Bo Bandit Darville Burt Reynolds agrees to pick up the beer in Texas and drive it to Georgia within 28 hours. There you go. There's our plot for Smokey and the Bandit. I knew it was something like that. It is. I'm gonna have to go watch that movie. Trans Am, it's the first time Trans Am made this gigantic debut. Everyone wanted a Trans Am after that. Sally Fields, that's fantastic. Of course, Burt Reynolds is funnier than shit, so you can't lose. Field of Dreams becomes Ancient Gladiator, Haunted Arena Dungeon. It's White Lightning without the whole story thing. Oh, wait, Chuck's yelling at me about something. Nothing in the story. Yeah, let me do a quick Chuck. It's in there somewhere. So Chuck is trying to find you guys what the hell? Trying to find you guys the free version, or the sample version of The World of Aird. Let me see. It's out here somewhere. Maybe it's in the downloads. Maybe I'm on crack. Let me check the downloads, Chuck. I'm not on crack, just to let everybody know. I don't think I am anyway. My wife might be slipping me crack, but I don't think so. Let's see. Where is downloads? Free downloads. Ah, damn it. No, it's not in downloads. I know. I just saw this like a month or two ago, and I put it in the stream. Let's try After Winter Dark. We've been overhauling crap for a while, and it's... Here we go. All right, I found it. It's under After... I'm not sure why I'm yelling, Chuck, but it's under After Winter's Dark. So this I'm going to put in the stream. All right, Chuck, we have learned a lesson today. It is under After Winter's Dark. All right. I checked it. All right, good deal. At the time, Coors was actually a regional product. It was made in Colorado, but because it wasn't pasteurized and contained no preservatives, shipping could get a little tricky. Coors didn't get national distribution until 1986. There is your trivia for the day. Willie the Rat from the left. Excellent. That's very cool. I never knew there was an actual reason behind it. I love a good daunting. Matt Mercer is my spirit animal. There you go. Back in the day, I DM'd uphill both ways. Well, that's the funny thing. I mean, I got to, when I've seen, they talk about, I guess, the Mercer effect or whatever. And I can't quite get my mind around it, because I'll think, okay, how did I learn to run games? How did I do this? And I don't know. I have no memory of it. I just did, because there was no one else wanted to do it. Well, Rodney, when I started my own crew, that would have been with Rodney, and Rodney didn't want to do it. He wanted me to do it, so I had to do it. That's not true. I had started a crew before that. I have no idea how I even got started, but the only example I had was Davis, because he had been running games for like 3 years. But when Davis started, he didn't have any. There was literally nothing. We played with the little white books. I don't even remember the books. Davis gave me dice and like 9 characters or something that he had written up, and we started doing stuff. There was no screens. We were sitting on the floor of our room, because we shared a room in those days. I was like 10 or 9 or whatever. So there was no Mercer effect for us back in the day. I think a lot of new players are watching slick streams so they have ideas of what the game should be like. Yeah, I think it really clouds the thing, and I think not until you've run a few games do you realize, oh, that's a whole different side to this arena than what's going to happen there, because even that's sanitized, right? So much how much of your game when you sit down is just joking and talking about food, or arguing whether the latest Star Wars movie was good or was it not good. I mean, so a whole lot of the game that's not, it doesn't appear on those streams, and that's part of the role playing experience, because it. And this is why I say there's nothing else like it. There's nothing else like it. Video games, even when you got all your buddies playing together, is very different. I don't know. There's really nothing in the thing. Bill Durham isn't a sports movie. It's a movie about life. Bull Durham beat baseball movie. Best baseball movie ever. I'll have to watch it one of these. Does it got Kevin Costner in it? I had a crush on her in the 80s. Yeah, man, I'm just a Sally Fields guy. And the World Anvil is worth the money. Really, it's got, there's just, okay, cool, World Anvil on Patreon, thank you. That movie made me fall in love with the Trans Am. My brother actually bought one. Smoking the Bandit is one of the all-time favorite movies. I'd be amazing to turn it into a CNC. Oh, that would be very cool. Got to bring in some Burt Reynolds. Also, Hoosiers is a minor masterpiece. I think I've seen that. That's a basketball movie, right? Gene Hackman? My mother said, "Take your hat off" was her favorite line in the whole movie. That's awesome. And they drank Dr. Pepper. If you remember, the sheriff at the counter orders 2 Dr. Peppers. I love how he says it. I can't remember that actor's name, but I love how he says it. Started out the Red Book and followed the rules to the letter. We learned to die, and we just jumped in the role as DM and played, so I think it was a good thing we did not know any better. No wrong. That's just it, Odd One, man. That's the whole thing. We didn't know any better. There's nothing to say. There's nothing to say that you're doing this bad or you're doing this wrong, or you're not trying to compare yourself. You just sit down, you read this really unusual approach to a game, and you go. And if everyone's having a good time, you do that again. If they're not having a bad time or not having a good time, you do something a little different. So there you go. Yeah, I swear there's a free something. Yeah, we found that. I think I'm way behind. Boy, I'm way behind. On Fantasy Grounds, the CNC rule set is free. Okay, there you go. Fantasy Grounds, Rogers did it. All right, we're all good on that. Free the Red Light District, Smoking the Bandit, Tricks of the Trade, Smoking the Bandit edition. There you go. No Mercy, no Mercer. I've met Mercer a couple times. He seems to be a very nice fellow. Us old guard really need to help these new folks because some of them are missing out on a lot of the fun of the hobby. Book of Boba Fett isn't a movie. Eat to serve. Well, that's kind of the cool thing. It's being one of those old guys that's played forever and a day. It's fascinating to me watching all these new people coming into the hobby. I think it's awesome, and to watch them go through the same struggles that we did. They just have more resources or more resources that make it tougher. I'm not sure. I don't know. I just absolutely love it. I love talking to the young people that are learning how to do all this stuff. It's very cool. Here's to making products that extend for the test of time. At last, someplace a safe place I can plunge my American dollar into. Well, yep, and they're all made in the United States of America and Canada. So if you're purchasing stuff from Trollord Games, it's stuff made here and not in China. You need to get CNC into the FG newsletter more. And the initial release item, it's not appeared size. All right, I'll talk to them. The streams do tend to sanitize the gaming experience. I'm also worried. I see. I'm also worried. I'm also worried that it will homogenize the DM experience, not allow new DMs to develop their own techniques and experiment. You're right there. It runs into an issue because you just, this is how you do it, and that's not how you do it. You want to react to your players. That's kind of the key. You're going to learn, if you pay attention to your players, you're going to learn how they play, and then you're going to build off of the way they play, and they're going to build off of the way you play, and within 10 games, 5 games, whatever it is, you're going to have a really nice machine working there. It only gets messed up when you butt heads once in a while. My daughter's homeschool group played some D&D and Mutants and Master Science, so later they each took turns running their own one-shots. They had a great time learning to play and run adventures, not intimidated, and that's a great way to do it. Shake it up, just do little bitty things, and rotating the DM out is not a bad idea at all. There's no wrong way to GM. That's like being someone, there's a wrong way to have fun. That's exactly right. Also, streams tend to use a lot of homebrew or additional content beyond core rules, which can make expectations a little inflated. Would like to see a stream that uses just the D&D PHB options. And you're right there, and that's another problem. That kind of into another issue with these streams is because they frequently have these large arcs. I read a blog post the other day, or an article post the other day, where this guy, his friends asked him to DM, and he started DMing, and he created this whole world and all of these huge, and it just fell apart. And then he tried it again, and it fell apart. And he tried it again, and he quit DMing. Well, that's because you weren't ready for all of that. That stuff not only comes with time, but it also comes with just experience in doing it. And you build it, and as you go, you just build it, and suddenly it's there. Suddenly you're going, where did this small world come from? Oh, I've been playing in this world now for a year. That's the way to do it. I don't grasp the Mercer effect either. I didn't know what crit roll was when I started. I think it's good to learn by watching others, but you have to keep perspective. No, this guy you're watching has been doing this for 20 years. You won't be as polished as him. Yeah, that's it. Spot on. And I don't even encourage young players to watch any of that stuff. I really think you should get a little bit of a grip on the rules and run another adventure. And speaking of adventure, another one of my favorite short adventures, this is the third one in the Tricks of the Trade, is the Overturned Wagon. Your characters, you're going to have them leave the town, wherever that is, and they're just going, for whatever reason, you're just going to the next town because you need to buy some equipment, you want to go eat at a restaurant, it doesn't matter. None of that matters. Once they're on the road, they find an overturned wagon. The wagon has gear scattered all over the place, and there's clearly a treasure box in it that's been emptied out. There's a mule missing. I always have a missing animal. If you have a missing animal, there's a huge chance that you're going to have it wounded, a wounded missing animal. There's a really, really good chance that you're going to have an animal lover at that table, and they're going to want to go rescue the animal. They want to go pursue it. So here's the wagon. Everything's destroyed. The wagon master's either dead or they're missing, but the mule's missing, and some kind of treasure was taken out of this thing. Now you have a good old-fashioned treasure hunt. You don't have to build anything. You don't have to. If the wagon master is dead, then you don't even have to have a backstory. It's just a flipped-over wagon that's been sacked. The owner killed, someone stole a mule and some treasure. Here's the trail. They clearly went into the woods. Now you've got an adventure. It's a short, contained adventure. It's very simple. No thematic elements, no anything. It's just a raiding party that took this wagon, and now you have a motivation. So that is the third. That is one of my favorites. See, I did get a bit overboard with my first campaign. I made a lot of errors and learned from them. That's the key to it. 4E wasn't my favorite system, but the points of light setting was a great idea. I didn't see that, so I'm not sure what that is. Jump in and play and run the game. That's at the end of the day. You got to build only what you need for the next game or two. Jason Sunday, that's spot on. That is spot on. Build it as each game you play. By the time you've run 10 games, you're going to look behind and you're going to see a very small world-ish community built, and that's the way to do it. I learned a lot watching Old School and Jay Scott too, and both Jay and Walt were approachable and gave me plenty of advice. That's always very helpful. You leave town to get a cheeseburger in Arizona. There's your adventure. And we had quite an adventure. It was quite a 2.5-day journey. Old Time Taverns have been going strong on Twitch for a few years now. One of the selling points of CNC is the rules haven't changed, and there is not a rules bloat. Some systems get more difficult as the bloat books multiplies. Yeah, that's a problem with a lot of systems. It just keeps piling on, and that's why we push the player's handbook. And thanks for pointing that out, Statler. We push. This is it, and it hasn't changed since 2006, 5, whenever we released it. And that's just the way it's going to be. Test WSDG, all that talk about Aird. My oldest Troll Lord book is the Codex from when it was spelled Aird, autographed in 2015. Next to the autograph says, Sig good to overrule any of my other signature boons. There you go. So for those of you who don't know, at conventions I will sign a book, and when I sign a book, I'll give the player a boon, and the boon is you get a reroll once, and you get one natural 20 every 3 games, or something like that. Well, he's not in today. He frequently attends his streams, but a good friend of ours, Omut, I'm not sure if he does it now, but he was running like 3 or 4 tables just a few years ago of CNC. He's running a lot of games with a lot of players, and his players have been coming to my table at cons for years getting these boons. He was beginning to get irritated with me, and that there were so many boons it was disrupting his game. So I started giving CK boons as well. Davis and I both did, so that we could kind of offset some of that madness that we were visiting on some people's tables. Good Lord, it's 5:20 already. So the fourth simple and short adventure is the small dungeon. Again, have them go from point A to point B, and while they're walking, they find a small dungeon. It's that simple. They lean against a rock. There's a hole next to the rock, steps leading down. Now you've got a dungeon. Make sure the dungeon is very tiny, not more than 10 rooms, maybe up to 12 if you've got a few small rooms, but something very small. Have a reason for it there. It's a weapons cache for some raiders. It's an abandoned dwarf, house, whatever. Just give it a little bit of reason to be there. Have a couple of monsters in it, not more than 3. And the nice thing about this is it's contained, of course, but it also lets you kind of break into the whole dungeon environment, listening at doors and just describing, a creak in the wall, whatever it is, and maybe a trap or 2 if you're inclined to do that. And then you have whatever monster has taken a hole in it. The owlbear is using this dungeon as its den. And it comes down to hunting, and now you got to fight the owlbear. I think an owlbear might be too strong for first-level characters. I can't remember offhand what their hit dice is, so you might not want to do an owlbear. That might be too tough. Conan finds his sword. There you go. When in the first Conan the Barbarian movie, he falls through he leans against the rock. Is that right? He's got chains, and he falls backwards, and he lands in a dungeon. There's your adventure. You got it. And that's actually a perfect example because he's doing an overland from point A to point B, though he doesn't know what point B is. He's doing an overland. He encounters wolves. He can't fight the wolves, so he's running from the wolves. But that's an encounter. That's part of his adventure. Gets to the rocks, falls through the hole. He's in a dungeon. And there you go. And now you've got 2 to 3 hours of play where you're learning all kinds of rules, and it's just very nice. No need to have a dungeon mapped out like the Pentagon. Nope, don't do any of that. You can map it, and frequently when I do it, and I do not do big dungeons, even in my campaign arcs, I do very small dungeons. I don't like running big dungeons. All I do is it's like a stickman dungeon. It'll say kitchen line, and the line is the hallway, dining room line, whatever. So I don't even do any of that unless I've got something that I've taken from a purchase module from whoever. Do you have short tutorials of the different things in CNC, making, PC, fighting, and so on? Not yet, Odd One Man, but Chuck and I were talking about that just Monday, and we did our first video on Fantasy Grounds, and we're going to start doing very short ones. He and I are going to start doing very, very short. Yes, Babunski is having it. They're going to be very short, 1 to 2 minutes. I don't want them to be long. I want the people to look at them and not get bored. This is how you do it. I'm out. But that is definitely in the plan. Chuck will be doing I'll do the video, and then Chuck will make it look pretty. I have heard the Stickman dungeon called a point crawl dungeon. There you go. I've never heard that. That's perfect, Jason. That's the way to do it. Yeah, and it doesn't take any work. Maybe 30, 45 minutes of prep for these simple adventures, for your NPCs or your dungeons or whatever the package is. And speaking of the delivery, the first one, don't even bother with what's in the package. That doesn't matter. That's not relevant. The relevant thing is to get them on the road. All right, since we're quickly running out of time, the 5th, what the hell was the 5th one? The Hunt. Oh, yeah, so this is the easiest one. This is the easiest of all of them. They're in a town, they're in a village, whatever it is, and something has killed a couple of locals, and the powers that be, the mayor, whoever, the tavern keeper, it doesn't matter, whoever, other villagers or the characters' parents encourage these characters to go out, hunt the creature, and kill the creature, or at least find out what it is. There's your adventure. And the nice thing about this one, you don't have to have an authority figure do it. It can be a village where the mother of one of the players is talking about our aunt or friend or whoever, or just the tavern keeper. Man, we're getting attacked by these. Something keeps dragging our cows. Something keeps dragging our people out into the woods and killing them. We just need someone to go find it. Now there's your adventure. The players can pick that up, hunt the creature, and find it. And all you need to do is map out not even map out, but create a small layer for this monster. It in itself can be a dungeon. It can just be a hole in the ground. Now you've got some overland to find the monster. You've got a nice, good, beefy encounter, and you got some great NPC action going on with the Hunt. I think Chuck is yelling at me again. Nope, he's not. All right, Chuck, are we rating? What are we doing today? And it is across the river. So Statler jokes, but I recommend that you throw some kind of water in your adventure, whether you're doing the delivery, the escort, the dungeon, whatever. If you can have them crossing a small body of water, it is a fantastic way to learn your rule set, because they're going to have to do swim checks, depth checks, tying rope checks, whatever it is you want them to check on. The river involves a lot. And the nice thing about a river, if it's a cliff and you fall off the cliff and you miss your check, you die. But in the river, if you fail your swim check, you don't have to die. You can have them make another swim check. You fail your swim check, you're swept 20 feet down the river. Make another check. They fail it again. You're swept another 20 feet. They don't have to die, so you can walk and chew gum check. Yeah, whatever. whatever it happens to be. Yeah, but I love the river so much because it's one of the few dangerous terrain pieces that you have control over, right? Cliff climbing is the worst because if they fall, they die. If they're pretty high up. So the cliff stuff, climbing things is just it's dubious and it requires all kinds of crap. Drown the gnome check, exactly. Sounds like you won't have to create another dungeon for a very long time. Wait, what did I created a dungeon with 200 maps, tons of encounters, and haven't used 7% of it. That's the thing about dungeons, and my problem, I think, with dungeons, and I ran into this because I used to run them, is that it invariably, the rogue or thief or whatever game system you're playing ends up doing most of everything. Checking for traps, listening at the door, hear noise. There's so many things that the paladin's not going to be doing a damn thing. There's so many other things that are going on that I soured on it, and then I couldn't. It was just too, and it goes on too long. It just takes too long to do it. And I have zero control. And I think at the end of the day, it was zero. It's all mapped out. There's walls and doors, and I can't change anything. I can't guide anything. I can't kind of influence stuff. Or it's harder to do. You can do it, definitely. It's just a little bit harder. Every time he goes near a river, something bad happens. Nearly drowned in the first. A gator nabbed him in the second. That's the way to do it. Rivers can be very dangerous. Simple is best. It sounds like you won't have to create another dungeon for it. Yeah, exactly. 20 failed checks later, yeah, exactly. At a certain point. So, Fajita Doctor, you'll appreciate this, I suspect. This is the worst. I think this is the worst death in any game I've ever run. Todd Gray was playing a fighter, and he actually rolled at the table in front of me a strength in Advanced Dungeons & Dragons of 1800. Now, this is for those of you who have never played D&D, this is very difficult, and it's the maximum strength that you can get at the table if it's not magically or whatever the hell. Todd rolled an 1800, and that's not common. He made it to second level, and he was swimming a river, and I had to make a swim check. In those days, there was no siege engine. We were playing AD&D. We were doing attribute checks, whatever that was, and he failed it. He failed it miserably, and he drowned, but I didn't. I said, no. He failed that check. You'd have to ask Todd. I think it was 6 times. It might have been 4, but I think he failed that check 6 times. And after the final time, I was like, Todd, and Todd was like, I know. He was so upset, but he drowned and he lost his 1800 character. Is when I learned to sometimes don't make characters make checks. just let them succeed at what they're trying, because it was a mess. That one is string intentional accidental determined success. It gets dull for me. I do quick games now for the most part. You're swept out to sea. Yeah, there you go. We will need to revisit Binker's. That's right. I watched something where they said they got fed up as their DM started every adventure. You wake up in an naked. What's that show? Ratty? I used to watch it. I loved watching Naked and Afraid. That was it. You are naked and afraid. That's the new DM. That's the new DMing call. You are naked and afraid. That's why I'm rolling for stats. It's special. Yes, been all the bars and gates. 1800. Yeah, it was. It was exactly. It was just sad. He did it again with it. He had a character with like a 17 or 18 dex, and he was tumbling down a cliff, and he finally died after failing 8 million checks. It was just sad. Todd rolls horribly. He just rolls terribly. He always has since the very beginning. Steve, you should see the character on Old School D&D we rolled last night. Oh, Lord. I can only imagine it again. Was it good or was it bad? Those rolls were amazing. Well, that's cool. But that's the nice thing about when you're rolling a character like that and you actually get those stats. In D&D, it was crazy. I'd only seen it done twice. Okay, start rating. You got 30 seconds. Okay, I'm told that I have to log off now. Naked and Afraid. We spit one. Yes, we did. Old con. Damn, watching that stuff. I love that show. All right, on this happy note, those are the 5 short adventures that I recommend. The Hunt, Small Dungeon, Overturned Wagon, The Escort, and The Delivery. With all of that, we will see you Tuesday at 4:30 for Ask Me Anything, and again next Thursday at 4:30 for whatever this show is, GMTT, and then Chuck's got some shows, and Tim's got some shows. We got more stuff building here. So we're going to raid here in just a minute. Chuck, I'm going to assume that you're doing everything. I'm not going to do anything. And you all thanks for showing up, and you all have a great rest of your evening and week, and have a good weekend too. And if you roll a 00, just bask in it. Just bask in it and think of Todd's poor character. All right, am I raiding, Chuck? What are we doing? All right. Thank you, Jason, for that. Thank you, everybody. Chuck, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing, everybody. Something's happening. Chuck's in charge. I think Chuck left us. Bye, Steve. Do we want to log out? I'm logging out. I stopped streaming. What do I do? I'm so confused. All right. We've rated.